So hi, welcome back to another Cook Along Live. Hopefully you enjoyed your butter chicken last week. That's always a really good one to do. This week we're going to make a honey chicken noodles. It's quite a simple, quick recipe to do for that weekday meal where you don't know what to kind of cook. We're using quite a lot of ingredients that are kind of in your cupboard already, being dark soy sauce and honey. I've obviously put garlic and ginger into your packs, but if you had garlic and ginger puree in your house as well, then you've basically got half the ingredients there all ready for you to do. So let's get started. The first thing I would say is if you only had one chopping board, then I would be prepping the veg before I would prep the chicken, just to save from any cross-contamination. So I've added a pepper into my one just because I had pepper lying around. You could do the same. You could just add whatever you feel you want to add in to your stir fry. The more veg you put in it, obviously, the more or the further it goes. And then just put it into a bowl. So just chop up the veg that you want. What I would say is, obviously, some veg might take longer than other veg to cook. That being your broccoli, but it doesn't really matter because it all gets put into a really high heat when it goes into your pan. So you're just gonna, for your broccoli, take florets out. What I would normally do is if the florets are quite big, because you can see the difference between like that to cook and this to cook. Obviously this is going to take a shorter period of time. So I would maybe chop up the bigger florets into half. Just so you've got it kind of all there. This one is a really easy recipe to make. Stir fries are always a win or a favourite in my house especially, but I can imagine it is probably everywhere, in every house. It's quick, easy, and you can use up as much of your veg that's kind of on its way out. So I've used about half a broccoli. There. I'm not going to use any more because I don't think that it probably needs it, especially with me adding in the pepper. What I would do is just add in obviously the stuff that's on your chopping board into it. It doesn't really affect it. Then what you're going to do is you're going to chop up your chili. So with your chili, obviously the same rules apply as what we would say in our kids programs, is don't touch the chili and then touch your eyes or any other delicate parts of your body. Always make sure to wash your hands straight after. If you are cooking with kids, I would be making sure that they know that, or you do it. And just chop it up into little chunks. Dicing it up. What I would say to use is obviously this is our last Cook Along Live until June. So if you have any comments, and anything you want to add into our June programme, feel free to obviously give us a wee message and we would try our best. I think in the summer we're looking at takeaways and kind of your classic summer meals for a 4-week block, I want to say. I could be that could be completely wrong, but I think it's a 4-week block, so plenty of time to add stuff in. I'm going to go and wash my hands. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, now that I've washed my hands, I'm going to then move that over. This is just to save the chili going onto my table. Move that over, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut up the chicken. This chicken, in the recipe it says 1 kilogram of chicken legs, deboned and cut up. In the shops nowadays, you can get drumstick fillets. I find them quite easy to use, and actually they're relatively on the cheap side in the supermarkets. Obviously, all meats kind of went up in price more recently, so it's always good to get a bit of a bargain, and this is one of the ones that I would say you do get a bargain with. When you're chopping up the chicken, I would just be adding putting oil into your wok to heat that up. Whilst I also would say before you put the cut the chicken up, just make sure to put your kettle on a boil, because that's obviously how we're going to cook your noodles before they get added into the wok. If you don't have a wok, that's no problem. What you can do is just use a frying pan or use anything that will heat it up. You're kind of waiting. The way you know when your wok's ready to cook with is when it's smoking around the sides. So you're just chopping up your chicken into chunks. It doesn't have to be exact. End of the day, stir fry is kind of just everything chucked in to the pan. If you like this recipe and the butter chicken before, I would tune back in the summer, because we'll have more recipes kind of like this. If you have a wok, what I would also say is, yes, wash it. But the more you wash a wok, or the less you wash a wok, sorry, I should say, the more flavour you have. So it's one of those ones that actually is okay when it's a little bit dirty or you've got a little bit of burnt bits around the side. You don't have to make sure that it's clean the whole time. And then you're just chopping it into little strips. I can always kind of do strips. That's always the way I do it, but again, do how you feel. So when this goes in, you're going to hear the sizzle. I'm going to go and wash my hands, and I'm going to put this into the wash along with getting our kettle ready for our noodles. Okay, so once your chicken is kind of frying off, what you're going to do is just leave your veg there just now. That's going to get added in a minute. You're going to have, you can use a bowl or a pan as well. You're going to add in boiling water from your kettle. And then all you're going to do is add in your nests to the boiling water. You don't have to do anything else just yet. And just keep stirring that chicken because it will catch the bottom. You can use a variety of oils. I've used sunflower oil. You can use sesame, or in some shops now you can get stir fry oil that has kind of garlic and ginger combined into it. What you're going to do with your noodles is you just leave it in the oil and water for like 5-6 minutes and it'll break down. So you just leave that lying around. Just make sure the whole of the noodles are covered. And then this leaves you just adding it all together. So you're going to put it up to the highest heat, which on this induction is 10. What you're looking for is making sure the chicken is cooked all the way through, making sure that is white. And if you have a temp probe, it's obviously over your 76 degrees. And just make sure that all the chicken is getting the heat of the pan. With woks, it kind of all works in that the heat is, or the most heat is in the middle of the pan, and then because of how the wok's kind of designed, the heat goes across the whole of the rim. It's really good for if you're steaming veg, because you can put water in the middle and it steams the sides, so it cooks your veg to nearly perfect. So just cook your chicken off for a couple of minutes. When you're doing that, I would be adding some salt and pepper in just to flavour the chicken. I would be don't put so much salt in, put more pepper in, just because you're going to add in soy sauce, which is quite salty. And then just go round, just make sure it doesn't hit the bottom of the pan, and just keep going that. Once you've done that, you're going to add in your minced garlic. And your minced ginger. It doesn't really matter if the ginger and the garlic is put in before it's fully cooked. What I would say is, though, garlic tends to have the property of when it burns, it goes really sour. So if you have put it in too early, just make sure that it doesn't burn your bottom of your pan. Along with that, you're going to add in your veg. This just allows some time for the veg to actually cook all the way through, especially our broccoli. What I would potentially be adding at this time is, like I was saying before, how the broccoli, how the woks would steam it. Adding a little bit of water at this time would allow the steam to kind of cook the broccoli through. So you're just doing that. You're just kind of keeping that going through. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to make sure that you break up that those noodles. Those noodles will be nearly cooked. You don't want your noodles to be too soft and too well, perfectly cooked just now, because when you add it into the pan, you want it just to be on the final stage um, of cooking. Whilst that's cooking away and boiling away, we're going to look at, Alexa, turn on kitchen lights. We're going to look at what we're going to add in for our sauce. So, in our sauce, it's quite a simple sauce, this recipe. You're going to put 8 tablespoons of soy sauce in, dark soy sauce. Right. And then you're going to put, just going to check, I think it's 2, yeah, you're going to put 2 tablespoons of honey. Whilst you're also remembering to keep stirring the pan, because you really do want that broccoli to get some heat to cook. Then you're putting 2 tablespoons of honey into your soy sauce. If you want it sweeter, I would put maybe 3. Or you could put 2 and then do like some sweet chili. That's what I would kind of do. With that additional water you've added into the chicken, that'll just give it a bit more of a saucy kind of feel when you're putting the noodles in. I am going to strain the noodles quickly whilst that's cooking. Okay, so that's your noodles strained. So all you've got left to put into your pan is your noodles and your sauce. That's the only 2 things we've got left to add in. I would always say to add in your sauce next. So either chicken is coated in in the soy sauce and the honey, and then add the noodles in right at the end. If you don't want to do chicken, you could do beef or any meat substitute. Also pork, actually, any veg, any meat or meat substitute would work in this. Just make sure to scrape the bottom of the wok. If you like your broccoli a little bit more soft, what I would do is I would maybe steam your broccoli or half steam your broccoli before you put it um, into your wok. Alternatively, you could use tender stem. Tender stem tends to work better in a stir fry, just because they're not big florets; they're just long broccoli stems, really. If I had carrot left over, I would probably be chucking carrot, spring onions, onions into this as well, because the more veg you have, the longer it kind of goes in terms of leftovers and meals it serves. If you've got that veg in the house, what I would say is why not use it? You would much rather use it than leave it to just rot and go in the bin. So now that the veg is kind of boiling away, I would put the broccoli into the middle. So you can see that I'm just trying to get everything right into the middle of the wok. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add in your sauce, making sure you kind of cover the whole thing. Just the way it works, that the honey is always right left at the end. So just make sure to pull in all the honey. And then cover all the veg and all the chicken in it. And then you'll be able to see if there's any honey left over. If there is honey left over, what I would do is I would normally just add in a little bit of boiling water, swish it around a couple, then you've kind of got a soy water mix, and then just chuck that in as well. So now that that's all in, and it should be boiling away, I would leave it to boil just for a couple of minutes, just to allow kind of the veg to get softer and for the flavour to go around all the chicken. You're looking really for it to be on a ferocious boil. So right now you can see it's just kind of doing little bubbling away. You're waiting for it to do a ferocious boil, which means it's just going to be, rather than your little bubbles, it's going to be bubbling the whole way around the wok. If you want it more sweet, which I always like it a little bit more sweet, I would just add a little bit more honey at this stage. Just allows it to get heated up, and just make sure that's in. It should be darker in colour. What I would always say is, before adding in any of your noodles, just make sure that the chicken is cooked by cutting it open and making sure it's white inside, because the soy sauce can make it a little bit deceiving with it being quite dark. What to then add in is just to add in your noodles, making sure it's kind of broken up. There's nothing worse than just clumps of noodles in a stir fry and then clumps of veg or your meats. So just make sure it's all broken up. If you were to make this kind of before you add the noodles in, and you're going to add the noodles in later, you can cook the noodles and then just make sure to run cold water through it, and that will allow you to keep them for a little bit longer. What I would add, if you are cooking the noodles in advance, obviously cool them down, and then I would put some sesame oil through it. It's what the supermarkets use as well, just to keep those fresh noodles kind of from sticking together. So my kind of rule on the noodle nests is that it's kind of one noodle nest can feed 1.5 mouths. So because I put 3 in this, it would be about 4, serving of 4 to 5 people, depending on how big your family is and how much they eat. And then what you're doing is you're just folding in your noodles into the sauce. The sauce will also break the noodles up, which is what you want. You could add also bean sprouts into this and kind of make it a full-on stir fry. It's so easy to make, especially with cupboard items that you already have. What I would say is, at least when you're doing something like this, you kind of know what's in it. You know that it's soy sauce, it's honey. The honey doesn't have, it's just honey. The soy sauce obviously has ingredients, but it's not got anything that's hidden really in it, unlike the sauces that have your gums and your E numbers and everything that an MSG sometimes. It's stuff that we don't need in our diet, but as in a lot of preservative or sauces that we kind of cook with at home. So once this is cooked, you'll be able to see, because it'll be, the noodles will be darker in color. The veg will, the fruit, the chicken will be cooked, and the veg will be soft. You're really the veg you're kind of looking at to be soft is that broccoli. If it's not, then you know you've still got a little bit to do. But right now, just keep mixing it in. If you keep mixing it in, and you smell it, it should smell quite like sweet soy. And that is your honey chicken noodles. It's quite a straightforward one to do. It doesn't take that long to make. And it's a great, like I said at the start, it's a great weekday meal that you can just chuck on and be ready in 20 minutes. As I say, that's CookAlong kind of finished until our summer. So we've got a couple of months out. So in that time, if you've got any ideas or questions, just fire them in. We'll be able to answer them. But thanks for coming along and watching the last 6 weeks. As I say, the next lot will be in June. It's a 4-week block, looking more at the fakeaway culture of the UK, kind of looking into China, India, Thai, and probably doing a bit more of an Asian style takeaway. But if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to put them into the chat or give us an email. And thank you for watching. Have a great Easter, and we will see you very, very soon. Thanks.